Yes, the outlet behind a Peninsular kitchen counter is required to be ground fault circuit interrupter or GFCI protected. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, mandates ground fault circuit interrupter protection for receptacles serving kitchen countertops. This requirement is found within NEC Section 210.8. Specifically, 210.8 subsection A.6 states that all 125V through 250V receptacles installed in locations specified in 210.8 subsection A.1 through 10, which includes kitchen countertops, must have ground fault circuit interrupter protection for personnel. A Peninsular countertop is considered part of the kitchen countertop surface. It's important to understand the scope of this requirement. It doesn't just apply to the receptacles directly on the countertop surface. It also extends to receptacles serving the countertop, even if those receptacles are located on the wall behind the countertop. This is because these receptacles are still considered accessible and likely to be used by someone working at the countertop. The purpose of GFCI protection is to protect people from dangerous electric shock. Ground fault circuit interrupters work by monitoring the current flowing through a circuit. If the current flowing out of the circuit differs from the current returning by more than a very small amount, typically 5 mA, the GFCI will trip and shut off the power to the circuit. This difference in current indicates that some of the current is leaking to ground, which could be happening because someone is touching a live wire or a faulty appliance. This leakage creates a potential shock hazard. By tripping the circuit, the GFCI prevents the person from receiving a dangerous shock. There are two main ways to provide ground fault circuit interrupter protection. Firstly, you can install a GFCI receptacle. A GFCI receptacle has a built-in ground fault circuit interrupter. It looks similar to a regular receptacle, but it has two buttons labeled Test and Reset. When a ground fault is detected, the GFCI receptacle will trip and cut off power to the receptacle. To restore power, you must press the reset button. Secondly, you can install a GFCI circuit breaker. A GFCI circuit breaker is installed in the electrical panel and provides ground fault circuit interrupter protection for the entire circuit. When a ground fault is detected, the GFCI circuit breaker will trip and cut off power to the entire circuit. To restore power, you must reset the circuit breaker. When choosing between a GFCI receptacle and a GFCI circuit breaker, consider the following. Firstly, cost. GFCI receptacles are typically less expensive than GFCI circuit breakers. Secondly, convenience. A GFCI receptacle only protects the receptacle itself. If there is a ground fault somewhere else on the circuit, the GFCI receptacle will not trip. A GFCI circuit breaker protects the entire circuit. If there is a ground fault anywhere on the circuit, the GFCI circuit breaker will trip. Thirdly, ease of installation. GFCI receptacles are typically easier to install than GFCI circuit breakers. The NEC also has specific requirements for the location of GFCI receptacles. They must be readily accessible and installed in a location where they are not likely to be damaged. This means that they should not be installed behind appliances or in areas where they are likely to be exposed to moisture. In addition to the requirements for GFCI protection, the NEC also has requirements for the number and spacing of receptacles in kitchens. Countertop receptacles must be installed so that no point along the countertop is more than 24 inches from a receptacle. This is to ensure that there are enough receptacles available to power all of the appliances that are likely to be used on the countertop. When installing receptacles in a kitchen, it is important to follow all of the requirements of the NEC. This will help to ensure that the kitchen is safe and that the electrical system is properly installed. It is always best to consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions about electrical installations. Ground fault circuit interrupter protection is a critical safety feature in kitchens and other areas where there is a risk of electric shock. By understanding the requirements of the NEC and installing GFCI protection properly, you can help to protect yourself and your family from dangerous electrical hazards. Remember that local codes and interpretations may vary, so always check with your local building department or a qualified electrician to ensure compliance. Additionally, any modifications or additions to electrical systems should be performed by a licensed electrician to ensure safety and adherence to regulations. Regular testing of GFCI devices is recommended to ensure they are functioning properly. Most GFCI receptacles and circuit breakers have a test button that should be pressed monthly to verify that the device trips. If the GFCI does not trip when the test button is pressed, it should be replaced immediately. Furthermore, it's important to differentiate between a ground fault and a short circuit or overcurrent situation. A ground fault occurs when current leaks to ground, as explained earlier. A short circuit occurs when there is an unintended low resistance connection between two conductors, such as a hot wire and a neutral wire. An overcurrent situation occurs when the current in the circuit exceeds the circuit's rated capacity. While ground fault circuit interrupters protect against ground faults, they do not protect against short circuits or overcurrent situations. Short circuits and overcurrent situations are typically protected by circuit breakers or fuses. These devices are designed to trip or blow when the current exceeds a certain level, preventing damage to the wiring and appliances and reducing the risk of fire. The specific requirements for GFCI protection in kitchens have evolved over time as our understanding of electrical safety has improved. Older homes may not have GFCI protection in all of the locations where it is currently required. If you live in an older home, it is a good idea to have a qualified electrician inspect your electrical system and recommend any necessary upgrades to bring it up to current code. When performing any electrical work, it is essential to follow safe work practices. Always turn off the power to the circuit before working on any electrical components. Use insulated tools and wear appropriate personal protective equipment such as safety glasses and gloves. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is always best to hire a qualified electrician to do the work for you. It is also worth noting that some appliances, such as refrigerators and dishwashers, may have their own built-in ground fault protection. However, this does not eliminate the need for GFCI protection for the receptacles that serve these appliances. The NEC requires GFCI protection for all receptacles serving kitchen countertops, regardless of whether the appliances plugged into those receptacles have their own ground fault protection. In summary, GFCI protection is a critical safety feature that is required for receptacles serving kitchen countertops, including those behind Peninsular counters. By understanding the requirements of the NEC and installing GFCI protection properly, you can help to protect yourself and your family from dangerous electrical hazards. Always consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions about electrical installations.